p.m. Just welcome to our council meeting, full council. Just before we start, you can see we're set up slightly differently, still in the pandemic, but also it was prepared for Lady Mayor Cross, who has had a fall this evening, so I've stood in at the very, very last minute. So our thoughts go out to her for a swift recovery. But meanwhile, I would just like you all to just bear with me, because I've stepped in, as I say, at very, very short notice. So welcome everyone, councillors, officers, public and press, and anyone who may be viewing this online through the link on the council's website. You're all seated in particular seats for voting purposes, and may I ask you, because of the difference this evening, that you can, when you are voting, if you keep your hand raised for a little longer, because it will take some time to count the votes and make sure that they're accurate. So if you just keep your hands raised for a little longer than usual. So I would like to move on by inviting Councillor Jackson to lead prayers. If we can all stand.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. The Mayor did ask me if I would find the reading.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I was going to say that actually, so everybody sit down, please. Okay, so we move on to apologies for absence. Officially, we've received apologies from Councillor Kane. He's unable to attend due to being away on official council business with Blackpool Operating Company. Are there any other official apologies for absence? Yes, I am aware of other absences for personal reasons, and we note those absences, but the official ones so far received from Councillor Kane only. So we'll move on to item 1, declarations of interest. Councillors need to declare their interest in items on the agenda. Can I remind councillors that you should declare the type of interest you have, the agenda item and reference in question, and the reason why you have an interest. So I will start the ball rolling as a non-executive director of BTS. I have a personal interest at item 6, and if there's, thank you, Councillor Benson, if there's discussion of financial performance, I will have to leave. Because that would be a prejudicial interest. So, Councillor Benson? Sorry. Remember to think, was her microphone not switched on? No, just remember to switch your microphones on, councillors. Thank you. Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Yes, I would like to declare a personal interest as a non-executive director of Blackpool Transport concerning item 6, and obviously if that turns into a financial discussion, the interest will turn to a prejudicial interest and I will leave the room.
Thank you, Councillor Galley. Councillor Matthews. So would those interests be the same as the previous speakers, Councillor Matthews? Would those interests be the same as the previous? So at item 6, personal, prejudicial, if it turns into financial discussion. Yes, thank you, Councillor Matthews. Councillor Campbell. Julian.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. Yes, I have the same. Item 6, I'm a non-executive director of the airport. It's a personal interest, but obviously would be prejudicial if it turned to a financial discussion. Thank you.
Sorry. Councillor Farrell.
You can't see me, can you, Councillor Burgess? Yes, I've got a personal interest as a non-executive director of the airport, and obviously if there'd be a prejudicial interest if there's an interest, a financial debate. Thank you.
Yep, personal interest in, as a non-executive director of Blackpool Airport, presidential interest if we talk financially, as a non-executive director.
Thank you, everybody. Moving on to item 2. That's the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of May. So that's pages 1 to 6 of your document pack. Councillors to agree the minutes for the meeting as a true and correct record. If you can raise your hand, all those who agree that the minutes for the meeting held on the 24th of May are a true and accurate record. Just keep your hands held. That's carried. Thank you, everyone. So we'll move on to item 3. A resolution of condolence and a minute's silence. We take tributes to Honorary Alderman Sylvia Taylor and Councillor Lynn Williams, Councillor Clapham and Councillor Gary Coleman will speak.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. I first met Sylvia during her mayoral year. She came to an AGM of Blackpool Citizens Advice Bureau. You would think it's not a particularly tough crowd, but they're quite a discerning lot, especially before lunch. And Sylvia came across as warm, knowledgeable, with a clear understanding of the issues that both the volunteers, workers and the clients of the Bureau faced on a daily basis. To have that kind of empathy and to not appear forced is a particular skill, and I think another mayoral visit from Lily, Councillor Henderson, a similar skill in being able to communicate with people. And then of course I met up again with Sylvia only a couple of years later, upon her retirement as Councillor for Claremont, and I became had to fill those big shoes. Sylvia could not have been kinder, more encouraging or supportive of me. She remained very active in the ward at countless jumble sales, Christmas fairs, local label partnership meetings, Claremont galas, and every resident that she came across, she was met with a great deal of affection and respect. Because for 20 years she had worked incredibly hard, but with a great deal of empathy, and that wonderful skill that Sylvia had of being able to communicate and care for people. And they felt able to speak openly and felt very supported by her. But of course, Sylvia was also, she had Steele there, and she did a remarkable job for those 20 years in Claremont, and as I say, it was left to me with very big shoes to fill. She will be very missed by all of us in the Labour group, and we will do as she would have wanted us to do, which is to continue to support Ivan, Luke and Tyne, to continue to support them with all our love and affection and our deepest condolences. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Clapham, would you like to follow?
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor, if I've got the title right, Paula. Sylvia, yes, lovely lady. When Sylvia was successfully elected to represent Claremont Ward, and I was on the council before Sylvia came on, I thought it could be to keep an eye on Ivan, because he was a very, very busy man as the group leader for Labour. And however, Sylvia was quickly established herself as a very capable councillor in her own right. She showed that she was very caring in her nature when dealing with people. And I remember when Sylvia, Mary Smith and myself were on a subcommittee investigating mental health provision within the county. We always travelled by train. I think the two ladies didn't drive, so I joined them on the train. And we went all around Lancashire. Sylvia would welcome me with, "Hello, love, how is Jill?" And she was very friendly and warm and very good company. So it was really a hoot in between the meetings, travelling around. It was a good experience for me. And I felt as if she mothered me. So I felt very, very safe. But we did the business, which culminated in the harbour being the chosen site in Blackpool. So we did it in a nice way. We did it very, very well. And it was a lovely experience. Jill would bump into Sylvia in Sainsbury's, and Jill goes back 50 years knowing Sylvia, as it turns out, in Redbank Road. And the conversations followed on family matters, holidays planned, holidays that they had, but never politics. Politics never came into it. That was out of the window. She was just a great all-round person. Sylvia was the cornerstone of her family and a fine mayor and councillor. And I never experienced that look that Luke referred to yesterday. So I don't know what Luke did wrong at times, but I certainly was okay. So that was great. That was a new thing to me. I'd not heard about that. She certainly will be missed by Ivan and the family, and all of us who have had the privilege to have worked and have known Sylvia. On behalf of the Conservative group, please accept our deep condolences, and we support you, Ivan, just as much as anyone else in here. We feel your loss. We know it must be a tremendous loss to you and everybody else within the family, and we're always thinking of you. So take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Clapham. Yes, indeed, well said. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Sadly, our town hall flag has flown at half-mast on too many occasions over this last year or so. Sylvia was a very special lady. She had a talent of putting people at ease. She had that wonderful smile and laugh that immediately made you feel comfortable in her company. She was our town's 10th Lady Mayor, and I know she enjoyed the role immensely. And certainly in that role, people meeting the mayor can be somewhat nervous before they meet the first citizen of Blackpool. Well, Sylvia would have none of that. She would make people so comfortable, and they was chatting as if they were best friends within a few minutes, which is a wonderful talent to have. I had the pleasure of serving as a governor of Devonshire School for a couple of years with Sylvia, and I know that was a role that she loved. And I remember the days when academisation was coming in, and we had 2 councillors on the governing board at the time, and one of us had to stand down. Now, I'd been on there for about 2 or 3 years, and Sylvia had been on for about 35. So I knew the writing was on the wall. But I know she loved the Devonshire School and everything about it, and she cared deeply for the school. It was always a pleasure to be in Sylvia's company, and Debbie and I have many happy memories of being with her. So, Ivan, we send you, Luke, and the family our deepest condolences. But I think we all feel grateful, all of us here that knew Sylvia, for knowing her and for being such a wonderful, lovely, special lady. Okay. Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Benson, followed by Councillor Jackson, followed by Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Some people you've known all your life, and Sylvia was one of them. Ivan often tells people, it's a famous tale this, that Sylvia was one of the first people to visit me when I was born in Victoria Hospital, and they were both guests at my christening. My mum and dad were great friends with Ivan and Sylvia, and many nights were spent round at their home on Devonshire Road, playing whist drives. It was the 70s. I'm sure there was some cheese as well involved. Hot pot suppers as well, coffee mornings, fundraising for the party. But I don't think it was until I was elected to this council that I actually got to know Sylvia. Previous to that, she was just mum and dad's friend and Lisa's mum. I spent many hours in committee rooms with Sylvia as chair of various committees, listening and learning. Sylvia was the master of detail and woe betide any officer's report that was wrong or there was a spelling mistake. The look was there. I only learnt about that look yesterday. I must have never displeased her. Blackpool Labour Party has a history of strong women, and Sylvia is no exception. Her warm personality shined through, and she had a smile and a laugh that lit up a room. Her ability to engage with people in all walks of life, and an exceptional quality for making people feel at ease. Spent many hours with Sylvia in meetings and outings, 2 more memorable than others. We attended a gala dinner in London. Tony Blair was the Prime Minister. Wall-to-wall celebrities. My eyes were on stalks. The highlight, though, for Sylvia, though, was when we came out of the Park Lane Hilton, and Dickie Bird, in full flat cap and anorak, got hold of Sylvia's arm and escorted her into a taxi. And I'm like, who's Dickie Bird? Anyway. I also attended the annual Head Teachers Conference when Sylvia was chair of the Old Education Committee. Sylvia was one of the speakers, and her knowledge and commitment to the children in Blackpool was quite inspirational. The warmth and the admiration felt for Sylvia from our school leaders showed how much she was respected and admired. Sylvia had a passion for education and the making of the lives better for the children in Blackpool, being chair of governors at Devonshire Road for many years, and she chaired the Education Committee also for many years. Sylvia loved all things Blackpool and her beloved Claremont. Woe betide anybody say anything about Claremont. She's still very much, or was still very much involved in Claremont Ward, even following her retirement. But Sylvia has left a legacy that will be remembered for many years. This group has lost a dear colleague, and we have lost a dear friend. Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. I'd like to echo everything that's been said previously, because everything that's been said is absolutely accurate. Sylvia was a really special person. And I would like to thank Ivan and the family for the privilege we had yesterday of sharing in the celebration of her life. It was a joyous and wonderful atmosphere of love and joy, and it was really great. But I rise as well with my combined fire authority hat on, because the people of the fire authority have asked me to send their condolences to Ivan and the family. Sylvia was a member there for 2 sessions, 2 periods where she was on, and I was privileged to share one of those periods with her. And we had some really great times together. We got lost a couple of times going to the meetings at Chorley. We'd be so busy talking that we'd miss the turn off for Chorley and end up in Bolton or somewhere else. But we enjoyed it together, and she was so appreciated by the people at the fire authority. Everybody spoke well of her, and she did a grand and fantastic job as a member of Blackpool, representing us on the fire authority. So they send their condolences to you, Ivan, and the family. And as I said earlier, I echo everything that's been said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. That sounds quite difficult, as I think it is for all of us in the room. Councillor Blackburn.
It's very hard to add to what's already been said, and all the speakers have spoken very well and reflected Sylvia and all their talents. But members of groups, every member of any group adds, any member of any group brings something unique, and Sylvia brought something unique to the Labour group. And it's best summarised in one incident. It wasn't long after the Labour group had taken control of the council in 2011, and we were all, me included, sort of feeling a way through what it was like to be in control and to make decisions. And one of our comrades, who's sadly not here tonight, got on his ideological high horse in a meeting. It was about academies. I mean, you can't guess who I'm talking about. He got on his ideological high horse, and the meeting got very heated, and he started raising his voice and almost shouting. Ivan was the portfolio holder at the time, I was the leader, and we were both equally irritated and angry at the way he was carrying on. But before either of us could get to our feet to do anything, Sylvia happened to be sat next to him, and as he thumped down in his seat, she reached her hand out, she put it on his arm, and said, "Now then, we're all comrades here. We'll not have any of this nonsense. We'll not have any shouting. We'll not have any carrying on." And immediately took the wind out of his sails. Not only did she neutralise the issue, but within about a minute and a half, I realised that I didn't even have to answer the question that he asked, because she dealt so effectively with him. That was something for which both Ivan and I were very grateful. She will leave a big hole in Blackpool life, not just in terms of politics, but in family, in a community work, and in Claremont. And anybody who's ever knocked on doors in Claremont knows that Ivan and Sylvia know absolutely everybody. So she'll be hugely missed. I was always very grateful for her support. I was always very grateful for her being a part of the group. Even after she left the council, she remained very much a part of the Labour Party family and the council family. And I join with everybody else in saying how much we should miss her. Thank you, Lady Davis.
Any other speakers? Thank you, everybody. I'll move on to tributes for Sheila Dyson, Naboth, and Councillor Taylor. You are going to lead the tributes.
Thank you very much indeed, Lady Deputy. Could I say my very deepest thanks for everybody here for the words that they've thought and the words that they've made, and the family very much appreciate that. Value Sylvia in a way that I couldn't possibly start to say today, but thank you all very much indeed for everything that's been said. But I'm up on another reason, and that is in terms of recording our appreciation and thanks to Sheila Dyson. Now, many of you, I suspect, will not know who Sheila Dyson was, because when she was on the council, she was known as Sheila Boff, which was a previous married name. And Sheila was elected in 1983, and then she was re-elected in 87. And during that time, she made a massive impression. She quickly became the deputy leader of the Labour group, and she also became the deputy mayor. And I saw in Sheila a great talent. She was a lovely person, but also a very, very good politician. And she was quickly recognised and became the candidate, the Labour candidate for Blackpool South, which we didn't win at the time. But a lot of people, including me, were saying, well, okay, she's not won this time, but it won't be long, because Sheila's on her way. But actually what happened was she'd started, when she left school, she went into the civil service. She was progressing very well, and then she left to have her children. And when they were of a certain age, she decided that was where her life was. So she went back into the civil service, and she couldn't be on the council anymore. However, she continued to be very, very active locally, very busy person, very jolly person. I don't know whether people here remember her or knew her, but if you did, then I think you'll agree with me, it was a great pleasure to be with her and talk with her. And although she wasn't on the council for all that long, 6 years or so, she made a very important contribution, particularly in the field of housing, of which she was very, very knowledgeable. So I'd like to say, Lady Deputy, very much that I hope the council will send our condolences to David and the rest of the family. I know it's a long time since she was on, and I know many people don't remember her, but I hope you'll accept my word for it, that she was a great councillor and made a very, very important contribution to the work of this town. And she was born in Blackpool, lived in Blackpool, knew Blackpool very well, and loved the place. And she died a bit younger than perhaps many of us would have thought, you know, but there you are, that's happened. But thank you very much indeed, and I hope very much we can support that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Is there anybody else in the room who would like to pay tribute to Sheila Dyson? Well, all tributes concluded, I'd like to propose that the council sends its deepest sympathy to the families and friends of Honorary Alderman and former Mayor Sylvia Taylor and former Councillor Sheila Dyson for their loss, and places on record its recognition of the dedication to office of these civic office holders. Councillor Williams, are you to second the motion?
Yes, happy to second. Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Can we vote? All, I'd like to, in order to pass the resolution, councillors to vote in support of the motion. Okay. Yep. Motion passed. Following the passing of this resolution, I instruct that we hold a minute's silence as a mark of respect. meeting. Just a final announcement, because it is going to be quite a long meeting. Once we've taken the executive reports, there'll be a short comfort, I'll allow a short period of time for a comfort break. I'll tell you how long is allowed as we get through the reports. We'll just see how it lies with the timing of the meeting. So moving on now, I invite our Director of Public Health, Dr. Rajpura, to lead us through his presentation, which is an update regarding the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Councillors, just want to take you through a few slides just to outline where we are with the pandemic and how it's affecting us locally here in Blackpool. I'll do my best Chris Whitty impression. Can I have the next slide, please? This is a graph of the cases in England. I'll come to Blackpool in a minute, but this just outlines the pandemic in each of the waves and the number of cases. You'll see that first wave that started in March 2020 looks abnormally low, and the reason for that is we weren't doing as much testing as we are in subsequent waves. So that's artificially low. So if you times that by 10, that probably gives you an accurate impression. It's probably closer to the bigger peaks, and so you've got to view that first wave with a little bit of caution. There's been more testing in later waves, and that's why we have a more accurate picture of the number of cases. But of course, the cases are always larger than what we capture, because there'll be people out there that have caught the infection and not been tested. As you can see, we've currently had a wave which has had 24,500 daily cases. Can I have the next slide, please? And so this is Blackpool. So Blackpool mirrors the same picture. We've got a similar sort of picture in Blackpool with the rising cases as we saw in the previous chart. As you can see, in the most recent weeks, we've had quite high case rates. But thankfully, you might be able to pick out from the graph, the trend is downwards. So over the last 7 to 10 days, I've seen a fall. So that gives me, I'm cautiously optimistic we're heading in the right direction in terms of our cases. Our levels of testing are really good in Blackpool. We do a lot of testing, and we do more testing, this is PCR testing, than many other areas in the northwest. So I'm very pleased. That gives me the confidence that we've got an accurate picture of the level of COVID within the town. So test. I've always said that, and we've got good levels of testing. We've got the PCR testing at the centre at the end of Yeadham Way. We've got one on Palatine Leisure Centre and one at Tesco Extra. So there's plenty of testing capacity available within Blackpool, and we're also doing asymptomatic testing, so people can go and get their asymptomatic testing at the shop in the Hounds Hill, or pick up a kit there, or pick up a kit at their local pharmacy. Can I have the next slide, please? So why have we had a rise in the most recent weeks? Well, there are a few factors that put an upward pressure on R. You'll have heard the R value. So when the R value gets above 1, we've got increasing cases and the epidemic increasing. Downward pressure is from the vaccine and other things. So if I just take the upward pressure first, on the 16th of August, we had society opening up, end of restrictions, end of a lot of the restrictions. And of course, as a tourist town, we saw lots of people coming into the town too. The Delta variant, which was a more transmissible version of COVID-19, appeared as well. And then schools and universities have been returning as well. As we go into autumn and winter, the seasonality factor comes into place as well. So respiratory viruses spread better during the winter months. People spend more time indoors. So that introduces a further risk. So those are the things that will put an upward pressure on R as we go into autumn and winter. The schools have resulted in a little bit of an increase. We have seen cases in the schools, but at the moment it's manageable, unlike some other areas of the northwest. We're managing that, and I'm putting that down to the close collaboration that we have with the public health team, the schools team, and the head teachers within the schools. We have a really good system of managing schools cases and stamping down on outbreaks. We've got to keep kids in school as much as possible. So we've had no class closures or school closures, and I'm hoping we can continue with that. In terms of downward pressure, the vaccine rollout has been the most important thing in terms of the downward pressure. So we've seen good uptake of the vaccination programme. I'll come back to the vaccine programme in a moment. But there's also been continued adherence to some of the guidance around face masks, hand washing, ventilation. All of those things still continue to be important as we go into the autumn and winter period. Some of these things are no longer mandated by legislation, but I'm saying to people, please behave cautiously as we go into autumn and winter. So the biggest thing is the vaccination. Vaccination is effective and is now the key factor in balancing that upward pressure. Can I have the next slide, please? So I just wanted to show you this because what this is illustrating, so if you look at the yellow line is adults and children, and the blue line is just adults. What you can see there is when we went into the first lockdown in March 2020, the number of mean contacts everyone had, this is the number of contacts that each individual had, went down to just over 2. Before the pandemic, the average number of contacts people had on a daily basis was about 11. So as soon as lockdown came in, that reduced dramatically. As we've gone through the pandemic, it's gone up and down a little bit. But the thing I wanted to draw your attention to was, in the most recent weeks, it's still only at about 4, just above 4. So people are still behaving cautiously. They've not gone back fully to pre-pandemic levels of daily contacts. And for me, that's a little bit reassuring, because as we go into winter, we do need to behave cautiously. But anything that increases that mean daily contact with other people will potentially increase risk and increase the number of cases. Can I have the next slide, please? And this is, again, illustrating workplaces. So the red line is did you attend a workplace yesterday? And if the answer is no, that's the number of contacts you had in the red zone, if you like. And with the yellow zone, it's if you answered the question, did you attend work yesterday, and it was a yes, then that's the number of contacts you had. So as you can see, if you go to work and if you go to a workplace, your mean number of contacts are far higher than if you worked at home. Now, that's pretty obvious, isn't it? But the point I'm trying to make here is that this is a really important measure, really important intervention in controlling the number of cases that we've got. So if you can work from home, then really we should try to, rather than flooding workplaces with lots of people. Now, for a lot of our industry, that's not possible because it's hospitality-based, it's front-facing, and that's fine. But with a lot of office-based organisations, then limiting that number of contact does help to control the spread of infection. And as you'll have seen in the plan, the government's plan, it's got Plan A and a Plan B. So Plan A is continuing as we are. Plan B is, if there's real pressure on the health and social care system, then they will implement 3 measures. One is to introduce COVID passports for certain events and venues. One is to actually mandate people to work from home where they can. And thirdly, to mandate face coverings again in indoor places. So the importance of this particular measure, SAGE has said that this is quite an important measure. And that's why, as a council, with an office-based environment, we've made the decision of still continuing to limit the number of people that are in our offices. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is the number of patients in Blackpool Victoria Hospital at this moment in time. As you'll see in previous waves, we had 30 daily admissions during the peak weeks. At the moment, despite our high case rate, we've only got 7 daily admissions. And so what I'm trying to illustrate here is that despite cases, we're seriously weakening the link between cases and severe disease. And you'll see deaths as well. So I think this is really important to bear in mind, that we are winning from that front, that we are breaking that link. I should say, though, the hospital is really busy. The hospital is currently operating at 96% bed occupancy. The way it was described to me was that it feels like the 3rd week of January and we're in September. So the healthcare system is under considerable pressure because of not COVID, as I'm illustrating here, but because of everything else. They're playing catch up with the stuff they haven't done over the last 18 months. There are other diseases that are presenting now, you know, so all of that is adding pressure to the system. So I'm expecting a bumpy winter with all the added pressures. And of course, this time round, because people are mixing more, we'll get all the other winterborne viruses. Flu, norovirus, parainfluenza virus, rhinovirus, all those common colds out there will start to appear. We're already seeing RSV in the communities. We're not seeing flu just yet. Can I have the next slide, please? So, coming back to vaccinations, we're doing really well in this. So, 2 doses of the vaccination are required for good level of protection against severe disease from the Delta variant. Over 92% of people here in Blackpool have had 2 doses in the over 60s age category. When we look at the over 16 age category, it's 80.3% have had at least 1 dose, which is slightly less than the Northwest. Now we've got everyone eligible over the age of 12. So recently you had the 12 to 15-year-old programme announced, which will be starting in schools very shortly in the next week or so. And that'll be a school-based programme initially. The rollout of the vaccination programme is slower amongst the younger age groups. So this is the group that we're really trying to encourage to come forward and have the vaccine. The vaccine van, you'll have seen the vaccine van the council's commissioned, is going to various different places, and we're targeting those areas with low uptake. So we know where the low uptake is, which areas have got low uptake, which populations have got low uptake, and so we're taking that van every day to a different place. We're of course working with businesses as well. So some of the hospitality industries that we've got out there employ young people, and so we're asking those businesses to get their employees to the van as we bring it. The van is a great place for, if you've got anyone that's vaccine hesitant and wants to have a conversation with a health professional, then they can turn up. And there's no obligation to have the vaccine, but if they then want the vaccine, they can have it there and then. There's no appointments necessary, they can just turn up. And we give 1st and 2nd doses there, and we're now starting to give booster doses for those people that are eligible, that have been 26 weeks since their 2nd dose. But I'm really pleased we've done over 8,000 jabs through the vaccine van, which is, if you consider our population of 142,000, that's not insignificant amount of doses. And what we're finding is it's people that are vaccine hesitant that are turning up to the vaccine van. Can I have the next slide, please? This is, again, just to illustrate, the blue line is cases, the grey line is admissions, and then the orange line is deaths. And what I'm trying to illustrate here with the most recent bit of the chart is that if you look at the cases, they've gone up to almost 100% of the previous waves, but the admissions are far less and the deaths are far less. I'm trying to illustrate the point that the vaccine programme is working. It's so important that people get vaccinated. I cannot emphasise that anymore. Next slide, please. And to illustrate it even further, this is the deaths. I mean, we've had very high rates in the most recent wave, but as you can see there from that chart, very few deaths. The vaccine programme, again, is breaking that link. So finally, just to say, I've cantered through that very quickly. I've also just published my most recent Public Health Annual Report, and I hope you've had sight of it. I did send it out. And it basically captures the period from April 2020 to March 2021. And it's largely focused on the response, the pandemic response here in Blackpool. And it captures all the great work done by the council, by the NHS, by the police, by all our voluntary sector partners, and the incredible effort that's been put in place to actually protect the population of Blackpool. And so please, if you have a look at that, I think that really captures all the great work that's happened. Finally, I just wanted to say that really, I think this winter will be bumpy. I think we'll have COVID cases rising at times. We'll have flu. We'll have other viruses that I've just mentioned. We'll have all the other things that winter brings with trips and falls and all the other pressures on the health and social care system. And the system's already under pressure. So we're going to have to work to prevent as much of that. And so really important that everyone follows that basic infection control stuff that I keep banging on about. Wash your hands, catch your coughs and sneezes, wear a face covering in an indoor place, do a bit of social distancing, get your flu jab along with your COVID jab, really, really important. So if we do all of those basics, we'll try and reduce the amount of pressure on the health and social care system. Let's do that for this winter. Let's get to April, and then maybe we can look forward to a post-pandemic world. Thank you.
Thank you, Arif. So, councillors, are there any questions? Reminding you that we're looking for questions of fact or clarity. Any queries that you have about individual cases should be dealt with in a different setting. So, Councillor Galling, you first, followed by Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Thank you for that, Arif. That was excellent. And thank you again for all the hard work that you and the team have been putting in. One of the things that, as I was listening to that, is that I think you're going to struggle with is almost message fatigue. That, oh, it's not COVID again, oh, it's that again. I've heard all that, I think I know what I'm doing. It's almost an exercise in brand management of an awful thing, to say what can we do to refresh that message so it lands again and is adhered to for all the reasons that you've just said, and not just, oh, it's another COVID update. And I think that's our biggest challenge in the way that we start to message this awful thing.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Galley. I mean, I'm trying to sort of refresh the message every couple of weeks. I do a video blog, and I'm told that people do listen to it, which is great. So I try and refresh the message, and our comms team are constantly trying to refresh that message and get our message out to people. So, yeah, I mean, we need to constantly reiterate those things. And of course, I think there'll be some national media as well as we go into winter. Of course, if the situation changes, then you know, Plan B gets put into place, doesn't it? And we have all the measures that come with that.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. Arif, thanks for that. It's very informative, and it's a lot more accurate than some of the stuff we're reading in the national press. Blackpool's just received some unexpected guests, and there may be more. Have we got a programme for vaccination of this group? And has it started? What sort of response are we getting? How's it going to work out?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, the guests have just landed. So we're just working through doing health screenings with those individuals. We're also going to be doing COVID testing, and of course, the COVID vaccinations for those that haven't been vaccinated. So the advantage we have is we have the van. So I can take the van out there and actually park it up in the car park, and we'll get people vaccinated. So yes, we've got all that work ongoing as we speak.
Any other questions, Councillors? Councillor Coleman. Debbie Coleman.
Thank you, Arif. Can I just ask is there anything, if you've got a needle phobia or anything like that, is there anything that people can have instead of having needles?
There isn't an alternative yet. They are all needle-based vaccinations, so there isn't a nasal version of the vaccine yet. If people have a needle phobia, what I would suggest is please pop down to the vaccine van. You know, encourage them to go down and have a conversation. I'll give you an anecdote. There was a group of young ladies who were needle phobic, just having a conversation around the vaccine van about whether they should have the vaccine or not. And one of our staff went up to them and said, you know, what's the problem? Can I help you? And they said, oh, we're a bit needle phobic and think, you know, is it a big needle? And she just pinched the lady on the arm, said it'll hurt less than that, you know, and that convinced them to have the vaccine. So that sort of simple intervention led to that whole group having the vaccine. So it really doesn't hurt very much, and the needle's very small, you know. So I think it's those sorts of reassurances. You can't get that from reading stuff on the internet or material. You need someone to do that. So I would encourage anyone like that, please pop down to the vaccine van and have a chat with our friendly staff.
Any other questions, councillors? No? No? It seems you're all clear.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we'll move on to the meat of our meeting. Item 6, the executive reports and combined fire authority reports. The executive members appointed as lead will present the reports, and you'll be advised when there's 1 minute remaining, so please, well, keep it brief as you can. So item A, 6A, we'll look at the corporate portfolio, and Councillor Williams will present the report.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Excuse me, keeping my cough to myself. Arif, has he gone? Sorry, noticed. I just want to do just a bit of a short update with regards to the situation at the Metropole. We believe that after 141 people were moved in by the Home Office to the hotel over the weekend, we now have just over 270 people in family groups at the Metropole in what is described as contingency accommodation. As we have made clear, this has been done despite our clear assertion that the use of this location is completely inappropriate. But irrespective of this, requires a change to the planning permission, which is not in place. I visited the hotel on Monday morning to meet with partners and to ensure that everyone understands that despite our concerns about how this has happened, our primary focus is on ensuring the vulnerable families who are now here are well supported by those services. Despite challenge of the unexpected arrivals, health colleagues have worked really hard with Serco to set up the health assessments which have commenced today. And they should be really commended for the work that they have done. They have done amazing stuff down there. COVID testing is in place, and we're ensuring that there are effective infection control measures with support from public health team. We know that our community is concerned for the welfare of these vulnerable families and have received many offers of help and support. We are working with Serco and will press them for details of how these offers can be utilised by the families to best effect. I have to say that it is taking time to get information about the families who have been moved there and any needs that they may have. But we continue to press for this so that we can address any gaps. Our officers and those of partner organisations will be working together to make sure that everyone working with the asylum seekers are held to account for delivering safe and effective support, and that families are moved out of this inappropriate temporary accommodation as soon as possible. We continue to consider our legal options and will proceed in accordance with legal advice. I'm happy to present the report and take any questions, Deputy Lady Mayor.
Councillors are reminded that there are 3 minutes per question, and there's no limit to the number of times you can ask a question here. So going out to councillors, any questions? On page 7, Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. My question is in relation to the bottom paragraph on page 7, which is the creation or transfer of 2,000 jobs to the new Talbot Gateway offices once they're complete. The question is, how does this fit in with the net zero policy plan, when I believe that a small proportion of these jobs are being transferred from Tomlinson House at Norcross? The rest are coming from Warrington, Cheshire, the Merseyside area. And obviously that's going to involve a lot of travelling back and forth to Blackpool. I understand the footfall on the local area businesses is going to be very good, but my question is, where does that fit in with the path to net zero policy?
Anybody else? Page 7. Page 8. Any questions? Councillors? Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Lady. Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Following on from Councillor Rick Scott's question and his mention of the new office accommodation, which will bring workers into the town, what is the council proposing to do to improve the retail offer and encourage more quality retail businesses into the town? We have lost a number of big players, Debenhams being one significant one, very recently, and it was reported to elected members on the 16th of September that 25% of our retail units are currently vacant. So how are we going to improve the retail offer? Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. It's just for clarity on my behalf, I'm sorry about this, but page 8, the second main paragraph says that the overspend in children's services was offset by savings in adult services. I get that, and I know it worked. But at the bottom paragraph, for the forecast for 21-22, it says that the leisure asset medium-term financial plans now forecast the service to break even, but in adult services, we estimate an overspend of 2.5 million. So in this financial year just gone, we made savings, but in the next financial, it's projected that we'll be overspent by 2.5 million. I wondered what's creating that, what's causing that overspend.
Any further questions, page 8? Councillor Callow.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. If I can just follow on from Councillor Mrs Scott and the retail offer in Blackpool. It is very worrying to see the town going down. But when you've got companies like Marks and Spencer's who have now got a massive advert on the television with showing their clothing and saying order online, this isn't helping the retail in the town. And I go into Marks and Spencer's about once a week, and it's very worrying because it's so quiet. It's quiet in the food department, it's quiet in the clothing. But these big companies are not helping councils to build up their retail. They're just not by having adverts like that, you know, buy things online. I know it's convenient for people, and some people can't get out the same and go around the shops, so it does come in handy. But that is not helping us, and I think really a little more cooperation from the big retailers like Marks and Spencer's would help our store in Blackpool. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callow. Any further questions, page 8? Page 9, councillors. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. Council tax and business rates help when it's needed. I know we've got a very aggressive collection system going, as everyone else does at the moment, not every authority. But I heard today that the government are going to fund up to 75% of non-collected council tax. It was a brief conversation, and I was surprised to hear it. And I just wondered if the leader had any further information on that.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any further questions? Page 9. Councillor, Mitchell. Sorry, eyesight's terrible.
Blackpool has the third highest council tax burden in relation to wages in Britain, whilst also having one of the worst collection rates. Just wondering what assessment has been made of the impact on the collection rate following your ridiculous council tax increases over the last few years.
I'm sorry, Lady, it might be my deafness or being back in the chamber, but would you mind repeating the question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. It was very quiet. If you wouldn't mind repeating that, thank you. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Blackpool has the third highest council tax burden in relation to wages in Britain, whilst having one of the worst collection rates. I'm just wondering what assessment has been made of the impact on collection rates following the significant council tax increases over the last few years.
Thanks, Councillor Mitchell, for your patience there. Thank you. Any further questions, page 9? Page 10, councillors. Any questions? Okay. Page 11. No questions. Okay. Final page, page 12. Any questions? In general? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. I think all of us, I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, have had an email
and I won't mention the lady's name who sent the email, but it referred to problems she's had with her own son, and in particular a relation to knife crime. I think we all share the concerns over that. And I know that some time ago, what she was really concerned about, that she came to Blackpool and she went to a gift shop and saw they were selling what she described as zombie knives. These are these serrated, long-bladed knives over 3 inches. And there's only one purpose for that. You can't use it for anything else. It's a weapon, end of. And I sympathise the way she felt. It seems that she's had her own family troubles with that. But I do remember some time ago, the LGA, and I think Councillor Blackburn was the lead member on that, brought out a voluntary retail stop. In other words, retailers voluntarily stopping to sell knives over 3 inches, I think it was. And I'm sure that Blackpool at the time must have got involved in that. I know historically our former councillor Horton introduced through our group a knife amnesty, which was very successful. So I'm just hoping the leader can look back and see if we still have that in place, and if there's any way we can start to enforce it, stop these shops. We can't stop everything because you can buy the damn things online, but stop our local shops from stocking knives which are obviously intent to be used dangerously. Thank you.
Any further questions? Sorry, it's really letting me down. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. I just wondered if Blackpool Labour could tell us about the Metropole Hotel. You seem to be saying, and you have made some public announcements, that you're looking for a change of usage. My understanding of a change of usage is whether that building, so the Metropole, no longer trades as for holidaymakers. If that is the case, then why are Blackpool Council under the Labour group allowing hotels to still trade for the homeless that are no longer trading? The only difference I can see is the number of rooms available. So if the Metropole's got 500 rooms and a small B&B has got 13, why is there no desire or will to look for a change of usage there? Thank you.
Councillor Blackburn, Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Just on Councillor Williams' point through you, the government finally banned zombie knives on either the 14th or the 17th of July this year. I think we all received the same email. My hope was that the visit to the shop in question had taken place before that date. If that isn't the case, then clearly it would be something that our trading standards officers would want to investigate, and I'm sure the leader would agree with that.
Agreed. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Will the leader agree to instruct democratic governance, or whoever is responsible, please, to change the way in which councillors' allowances are publicly reported? Currently, only a councillor's basic allowance and any council special responsibility allowances, such as cabinet or chairmanships, are publicly reported. We now have many councillors receiving extra payments for being board members and chairs of this council's numerous arm's-length companies. We probably must be we must have more arm's-length companies than most councils in the country, Lady Deputy Mayor. Each one of those councillors receives per annum either £5,000 or £2,500 a time. And no doubt that'll be rising with an increase when we vote on it later this evening. Furthermore, a number of councillors receive payments for being the council's representatives on outside bodies. In the interest of transparency, I think it would only be right that the public is informed of all the payments that each councillor receives as a result of being a Blackpool councillor, and not just those payments that we are legally required to make public. Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. Staying virtually on the same subject, we've all been accused, or we've all been made of suggestions that brown envelopes get passed between councillors and council employees. We know that's not true, or we hope it's not true. But we have to declare our income or any gifts and hospitality. But officers and directors don't. Does the leader think it might be good for transparency to stop any such accusations if gifts and hospitality were also declared by directors and senior officers? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any further general questions? Okay. Councillor Williams, you're right to reply.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Excuse me. First of all, it was Councillor Scott with regards to the net zero policy plan. I'm not sitting on the fence, but I can't comment any further. There is embargo on any information with regards to that development, but I can write to you and answer that question, and hopefully in just over 2 weeks' time. Councillor Michelle Scott, yes, it is. I mean, as you know, this isn't just a Blackpool issue. This is a national issue. What we are trying to do, which I think rather successfully, is to increase that footfall into the offer and increase the offer in the town centre. So not just a conference centre, but a new cinema and all those other exciting new tenants. We hope to make an announcement very shortly in relation to the Hounds Hill. And by encouraging that, making the town centre offer, then you make that more attractive to other private investment. We need to obviously to continue to plug that gap and to attract those businesses. But I think what it has been pleasing over recent weeks is that there has been a number of small independent private businesses have opened and are doing very well. And we will continue to support that. But I think it's about the offer, what we can offer in the town centre to attract people and then to attract that private business, because the council simply cannot do all of that by itself. Councillor Williams, I'm out of practice on this. So, which was the pressures of, yes, sorry, I'd just written pressures / demand. I mean, there is a 2.1 billion black hole for local authorities who provide social care across the country. This has been caused by, and in Blackpool, by years of underfunding, temporary funding, and no proper support for those services. So what we will do, as we have always done in this year's budget, is look to see how we can continue to support and invest in services. Because that has been obviously the policy, you recall from the budget speech, that we invested in, unlike a lot of councils throughout the country who are having to look at cutting both adult social care and children's social care. No. Let me finish.
Oh, okay.
I'm on a roll. Councillor Mrs Callow, yes, I mean, this is a policy from of Marks and Spencer's, and it is disappointing. As members of the Labour group, some of the Labour group will know I have a deep affection for Marks and Spencer's, so it won't go out of business without my help. But yes, I do appreciate what you know, your concerns. And then where was I? I think I've lost a page. The council tax. I'm really not doing very well with this. So I got 75%. Oh, that was from Councillor Williams. So 75%. Yeah, I hadn't heard anything further. I've been in meetings all day, so I don't know, but I will find out and we'll get back to you on that. Councillor Mitchell, it's very difficult to, because of the last year that we've had, it's been very different years. So you can't compare our collection rates as of now with this time last year. We can compare them back with 19, but it doesn't provide you any proper analysis. But it's the Conservative government that has assumed that we will increase council tax to fund those services. The alternative is to cut vital services, which we will not do at this council. Zombie knives, yes, I actually didn't receive that email, Councillor Williams, I don't believe, but I will find out and share your concerns. 12, in relation to, yes, we do believe that this isn't a case at the Metropole of it being a temporary change. They aren't just, excuse me, accommodating a few residents while they are still operating as a hotel. This is a complete closure and reopening as a hostel, we believe, and that is a material change of use. In relation, the council has a policy of no more HMOs, but we, as you know, all of those who have been on the planning committee know the vagaries of planning legislation and planning law, and it's a very difficult subject and relates to actually what the use had already been of that. But we have a policy to not grant any more. But if there are circumstances where there has been that use and the evidence of that, and then we don't have any alternative. But we are working with that and drawing up policies to try and deal with that. And it continues to be a major issue in terms of houses and multi-occupancy. But there are different strands throughout the council to deal with that. Councillor Blackburn, yes, I'll find out. I don't know if it was before. I didn't receive the email about the zombie knives, but thank you. Councillor Coleman, the allowances, I don't have any issue with that. Obviously, I'd have to, you know, defer democratic services, but I don't have any problem with that at all. And in relation to officers, I would have thought that those already had to be, although I'm showing my ignorance here. That, but obviously, I can find out. But I would expect that those would be already required.
Deputy Mayor, I can clarify that information is collected, but it's not published, so we can arrange for that to be published if that's the leader in the council.
Again, I don't have any issue with that. I'm sure everybody has reported correctly and has declares, etc. I'm sure there isn't anything there to be found. And I think that was it. I feel like I've missed some, but have I? Okay. Thank you.
Moving on to item 6B, our people portfolio on pages 13 to 21. Councillor Campbell to present the report, and then I'll take questions and comments on a page-by-page basis.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. Feels a bit weird to be doing this in person. So I'm presenting the people portfolio, and I will defer to my colleagues, Councillors Benson, Farrell and Hobson, if I can't answer anything. So if I could just take an opportunity to pick out a couple of the parts of my portfolio, and I'd like to take this opportunity to give my personal thanks to all of those who worked extremely hard during the pandemic to ensure that all of our vulnerable residents and school children had access to nutritious meals. It was truly a team effort. But special thanks needs to go to Derek Wright, the Catering Services Manager. Under Derek's leadership, the service is going from strength to strength, as you can see from the report. I would also like to thank all of those involved in turning our youth justice service around from inadequate to good, with some outstanding features. It was a massive achievement, and I'd like to thank you all very, very much. And with that, happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's just a matter of a topic called Classics for All, which was led by Peter Wright, who's a Blackpool sixth form lecturer, who actually won the National Award for Classics, and he's piloted teaching of Latin at Norbreck Primary Academy. Apparently, it's to do with levelling up, because in private schools they do teach Latin and they get some sort of advantage. Well, as a former private school pupil who did Latin, I can't see what the advantage is. It certainly wasn't for me, but I didn't have an inspirational teacher as we've got here with Peter. Mine was a very old lecturer who looked as though he'd been a centurion, but there we are. Very boring it was for me. But it has been very successful and popular in helping improve English and learning modern foreign languages. And I know now that 9 other schools in Blackpool have signed up to join this course. And it is very popular, it is very successful, and it does help with foreign languages and English. And anything which helps English, as far as I'm concerned, is something that we need to grab, take on board. And well done to Peter Wright and the Sixth Form College, once again. I declare an interest has been the...
Thank you for promoting that. Any further general questions? Sorry, I really can't. I'm just blanking everybody's name. I can't.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. I don't expect you to be able to see my name from the naughty corner back here.
I'm just completely blanking. I'm sorry. I apologise to everybody.
And I'm not sure if I have to declare a personal interest as a governor of Blackpool Hospital for about what I'm about to say, but it's not controversial. I would just like to hope you would join me and Councillor Campbell, because this comes under her portfolio, on congratulating Jackie Brunton, who is a nurse at Blackpool Victoria Hospital, who won Nurse of the Year. I don't know if anybody saw the ceremony on Channel 4. It's a fairly prestigious prize, but it's good that she is a Blackpool nurse. It's very, very sort of proud that she is one of ours for the amazing work that she's done over the COVID period. She set up a bereavement service, and she was one of the people that helped people say goodbye to their loved ones when nobody could access the hospital and things like that, and saying goodbye to dying people over things like Skype is awful, but that was her job. But the fact that she belongs to our town, I think, is immensely important, and I think we should recognise that. Secondly, on a fairly minor note, and I don't know if this is done before, but we used to always give a little nod to our new councillors, and this is our first full council where we've had a new councillor, you see, so we should always say welcome to the club. It's horrible, but you've done it, so well done. But yeah, thank you, Madam Deputy.
Thank you for that. Yes, indeed. Welcome to our new councillors. And also, in my defence, it's because I know you all by first name terms, so that's my problem up there. Any further general questions? No? Okay. Well done. You stunned them into silence there, Councillor Campbell. You're right to reply to all those questions.
Oh, I don't think there's much right to reply, really. But yeah, Peter Wright, yeah, that's fantastic. I'd love to have learned Latin when I was young, but seemingly my head teacher didn't think I was clever enough, which is a bit rude. But no, I think it is really important, modern foreign language, and it's nice that a lot of schools are signing up. And congratulations to Jackie. I didn't know that, but yeah, fantastic. Nurse of the Year. Congratulations, Jackie. Thank you.
We'll move on now to 6C, our place portfolio. Councillor Brooks to present the report, and after the debate, you can ask Councillors Williams, Taylor, or Hugo and Smith to jump in to answer questions if you choose. Okay.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. I thought you were going to make the announcement that if it was brief, we could all go for a comfort break. But we move on. I will be brief. as Lady Deputy Mayor's already pointed out, my colleagues will pick up the more technical questions from their areas and their portfolios. I just want to make a couple of points in relation to my own portfolio. First of all, in relation to CCTV and the planned £2 million investment that the town's going to make, and an ongoing investment of £100,000 a year, and to pay tribute and thank the Scrutiny Committee and numerous other people that have been involved in bringing that forward. We took the unusual step of getting all the interested parties together to work out what's best for the town, and I think what we've got is a magnificent system that's coming, and will be right up to the minute, and will do us a lot of credit. We'll move from 92 cameras to 346 cameras, all of which will be internet enabled. We'll be purchasing a mobile CCTV unit. We'll be creating a new central control room, which will be invaluable for control of events, and in the event of any terrorism or emergency situation, the emergency services will be able to work from that, and that will be to everybody's benefit. Probably the most interesting and amusing benefit will be the 105 speakers that will be appearing on some of the columns, where we can allegedly warn and inform people to tell them it might not be a good idea to carry on doing what they are doing if they're caught on CCTV. But more importantly, if we are in a situation where we need to move people to safety, it's a lot quicker and more efficient than sending individuals into the danger area. So thanks for that joint effort. And not just the Scrutiny Committee, but as I say, various community groups have also fed into that, and I think it's a worthwhile project. The other thing I'll talk about briefly is Project Amber, potholes and road resurfacing, a subject close to everybody's heart. Project Amber, the surface extension treatments, we've managed to cover 9 miles or resurface 9 miles of road just before the lights were switched on. That will add another 5 years to the lifespan of the road surfaces in those areas. Basically, we go along, we repair minor potholes, joints, cracks, etc. And then the whole road is resurfaced. And then 2 hours later, new road markings are put on. So we've managed to do 9 miles. Unfortunately, the weather stopped us doing a number of others, but they're in the pipeline, and that will continue at pace over the next 12 months. So without further ado, recognising the oncoming comfort break, I'll move. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. We'll take questions page by page. Page 23. Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Before I ask a question, just to echo Councillor Brooks' comments, and to thank you as portfolio holder for involving scrutiny at the proactive stage. It was a great example of scrutiny at its best, and I think the policy created will be all the better for it, so every credit to yourself. The question I had was actually aimed at Councillor Smith, and it was being a question I would probably asked if I hadn't cancelled our meeting on Monday, so apologies for that. This is my fault for asking it here. The Blackpool Airport Enterprise Zone, obviously we're all aware of different supply chain issues that are affecting the United Kingdom at the moment in all sorts of areas, and obviously the most recent is fuel for all sorts of different reasons. But what we may not be aware is of the huge energy crisis that's playing itself out in China at the moment, which means massive shortages in electricity supply, which means manufacturing over there is starting to slow down, which will have an impact in the supply chain in terms of prices will start to rise, goods will become shorter and therefore will only go to the places that are willing to pay the additional costs. Why have I linked that to the enterprise zone is that I think that presents a unique opportunity for UK manufacturers and also wholesalers who are now also revisiting their supply chain urgently at the moment. And I think there's an opportunity for us almost to speak to the food manufacturers, the plastics manufacturers, to actually start having those supply chain conversations in terms of what opportunities could exist on the enterprise zone and our other commercial land space that we own, to see if there is a space now for us to actually see if those companies would like to nurture their own rather than rely on importing from China, knowing that this will probably play itself out in about 12 months' time. that they're going to see even more higher costs, and I feel this is a real opportunity for Blackpool.
Any further questions? Page 23. Page 24. Page 25. Was that your hand up there, Councillor Collett? No, you were just moving. Now I know your name, you're not going to get away with it. So page 26, Councillor Walsh and Councillor Williams, Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. As part of the core strategy policy, CS6, which seeks to protect and enhance the green infrastructure, the implementation of the tree strategy, which in itself aligns itself with the strategy, was to plant 4,000 trees across the resort. On the 21st of June, at an informal scrutiny leadership board meeting, members were informed of some deeply depressing and troublesome news under the heading of antisocial behaviour. Of the 4,000 trees, or young whips as they're known, that were planted in the planting season of 2020, 75% of the trees were either damaged or stolen. That equates to 3,000 trees. It was reported that on one instance, 600 trees were taken at one point. Until now, I don't believe this information has made it into the public domain, and I'm disappointed that this report does not include the details. So my questions, in monetary terms, what was the cost of the trees that have lost of the 3,000, and how much does it cost to replace them? Secondly, how is the authority meeting those costs? And finally, Lady Deputy Mayor, if the 600 whips that were stolen, is there any progress or upgrade on the perpetrators? Because that sounds to me like a commercial enterprise rather than someone taking a tree just for their backyard. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. I'm following on from my colleague. Yes, I mean, I thought it was shocking to think that many trees had either been damaged or gone missing. But I'm referring to the draft Greening Blackpool Supplemental Planning document. For years now, we've been saying that new developments must include green space. But we've seen very little evidence of it. And I haven't seen much in terms of commuted sums either being spent on green areas. But I applaud any green policy that we want to put into place. Absolutely. But then I'll come back to something I'm always harping on about, and I'm sorry about this, but it's the east side of the golf course. We've got an opportunity there which we really are missing. I can understand if the golf course itself is not practical as an 18-hole. I get it. I get the financial implications of that. But to turn it into a holiday park when really we should be giving this back to the people of Blackpool, and we could turn it into an ecological wood or an ecological centre. You could plant enough trees in there to fulfil your green policies for the next 3 years. And you could be providing an educational statement, you could be providing a health statement because it's right next to the hospital, and trees produce oxygen, as we know. It could be a fantastic place. And I think Blackpool, for once, should put its money where its mouth is and follow its green strategy and give that piece of land back to the people of Blackpool. I know for a fact that some of my colleagues on the other sides of the chamber agree with me. A lot of people don't want to see this developed as a holiday area, and seats may be lost because of that, because I know personally there's a great deal of public feeling about losing that spare ground. The Chief Exec assures me that the drawings that can be produced will give it more access. Could be.
1 minute.
Could be it'll give it more access. But really, it's ours. It belongs to us. It was gifted to us. And instead of the few bob we might make, which will disappear somewhere, let's give it back to the people of Blackpool. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Gully.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Following on as regards the draft greening Blackpool supplementary planning document consultation, I see it's a real opportunity, and my only worry is I don't think many people know. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong person. I'm sorry, Leader. I'm looking in Councillor Hugo. Thank you. Apologies. Yeah, I see it's a real opportunity, Councillor Hugo, in the sense that there's huge amounts of research now about this 15-minute neighbourhood, which aspires to create all of the things that are listed in that first paragraph about health and well-being and so on. In light of the recent announcement potentially about the new amount of workers that are coming potentially to the centre of Blackpool, the real aspiration shouldn't be about what they do in their dinner hour. It should be about getting those people to actually look to reside in the town centre, and that's only going to happen if they've got nice places for their children to play and walk the dog and all those sorts of things, which means instead of some car parks being car parks, they need to be a green space literally to walk the dog and play football on. It was something that's massively missing in our town centre, which the 15-minute neighbourhood principle would capture. And so my question really is twofold: should we republicise that and give the people of this town centre that opportunity to have that involvement? Because I'm pretty certain if we took away this language and put it in a way that they would feel comfortable expressing and understanding why this matters to them, we'd probably get a better input. And secondly, take that opportunity to consider all the new research that's come out of the last 18 months and this 15-minute neighbourhood experience that will give us a better input, but ultimately a better deliverable in terms of what we do with our green space, in terms of what we create.
Thank you, Councillor Gully. Any further questions? Page 26. Page 27. Councillor Williams, Councillor Gully.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. The Leader of the Council announced that there will be announcements, very shortly on replacement in Debenhams. This emerging announcement seems to have been happening for weeks, and it still hasn't happened. Could she tell the Council exactly when you'll be able to announce who is taking over that store and when it's to be likely to be occupied? Thank you.
And Councillor Gully.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. This looks at all of the capital projects, or some of the capital projects. So this is a question for Councillor Smith. There are some of the capital projects listed here that we're about to embark on or have started the work on. There are also other projects that we're working on through the different Town Deal Fund, the Levelling Up Fund, and so on. So that's a huge revolutionary change in terms of construction for Blackpool, which is exciting in itself. So take that back a tier. The question will be: do we have the skills to manage all of these different projects, and do we have a strategy in place that will be able to resource them in terms of the actual construction work itself? When we were both first elected, you remember we had a capital projects team. They were looking after smaller projects than all of these. Now that capital projects team is it finds itself in different departments. So the question, as I say, my concern is how do we manage that this is delivered on time, that the work is of the standard that we need it to be. All those things that exist in any development is how we manage such an exciting but big and vast range of projects.
Thanks, Councillor Gully. Any further questions? Page 27, Councillor Hodgson. Oh, answer. Your answer. Sorry. Any other business? I'll put that through. We've got page 28 and 29 to go. Page 28, Councillor Scott and Councillor Councillor Mrs. Scott. I can see you behind. And Councillor Walsh, sorry. So, Councillor Scott. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. My question is CCTV. It's to be lauded that this is finally getting off the ground and replacing the current CCTV system and linking in with what City Link are doing with the comms. My question is, I mean, it's a big project and it's a big asset, and what I'm fearful of is projects in the past that haven't been looked after, shall we say, had a decent maintenance contract, they've fallen to bits, mainly because of the coastal corrosion, you know, the environment that we live in. My question is, has there been a decent post-maintenance programme put in place for the maintenance of this CCTV system? Also, for getting spare parts off the manufacturers, as a deal being done where we can get, you know, for spending so much money with them, we can get parts at a cheaper rate. And also, have Lancashire Constabulary been approached about paying towards this out of their budget as well, the upkeep of it, because they'll be wanting to use the system. They get a bigger budget than us, so it's only fair that they should contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Michelle Scott.
My apologies, Lady Deputy Mayor. My question relates to page 29.
29, okay, thank you. I'll come back to you, Councillor.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. In relationship to the CCTV cameras, I think we're all aware of and appreciate the work that friends groups across the authority do in the parks. If people recognise the problems that Highfield Road Park have had, where vandals have gone in and destroyed the infrastructure there, or the decking and the bench seating, can I just ask, of these 200 extra cameras that we're getting, will they be proportionally set across the town, or are they just going to be located predominantly on the promenade? Because over the lockdown period, if you remember rightly, I've never seen so many dispersal orders in Claremont, Brunswick, Talbot wards. The residents of those wards need extra help, and if that means they may not be reactionary to the incidents that are ongoing at that time, what it will give them is a chance to get hold of these perpetrators of the crime. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. Project Amber, the first time I saw the improvements on the road, I was driving down the promenade and I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really good. The new surface just by the Cliffs Hotel down there was great, and even where I live we've had some stuff done as well. I'm presuming this might be a new machine, but I'm not sure. But the question I've got is, you've been in power for a long time, and potholes have been around for a long time, and people have complained about potholes for a long time. Why is it taking so long to address that problem now? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any further questions? Page 28. Councillor Mrs Scott, you've had a question, page 29.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. My question's in relation to the improved energy efficiency of homes for low-income households. And over the past decade, really, the council has promoted such schemes to install insulation into properties. However, I'd like to raise a word of caution with regard to retro-installed cavity wall insulation. We're a coastal town, and for many properties that retro installation is not suitable or appropriate. A lot of companies jumped on the bandwagon, installing poor quality measures, incorrectly installed and inappropriately installed into properties where it should never have been put. The correct cavity clearance wasn't done beforehand, and as a consequence, I'm personally aware of quite a large number of properties that have resulted in problems with damp, mould, the resulting stress of that for the house owners, the real difficulty in getting that stuff removed and the cost, not only the cost of removal, but also the extensive cost of repair to properties that have really suffered from that. So I would, as I say, like to raise a word of caution that there is good oversight with this to make sure that any installations that are done correctly and appropriately to save that worry for our residents. Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Scott, I'm sure we'd all echo that. Any further questions, page 29? Okay, going back to councillors, right to the point. Oh, Councillor Hobson, general questions, I'm sorry. Councillor Hobson.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick one, really, and I'm only sort of mentioning this now because this report does cover transport. I was very fortunate on Saturday morning to attend the opening of the Tramtown Heritage Tram Centre. It's absolutely fantastic, and all I would say is book yourselves on a tour because the trams, the heritage trams we've got are amazing. So it's just a quick, basically, thank you and congratulations to Councillor Galley there, along with the team at BTL and all the volunteers. It was absolutely superb, and I am really looking forward to that to becoming a major tourist attraction in my ward, so well done.
Certainly. Sorry, Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. I'm obliged. Can the relevant Cabinet member advise Council as to what the current situation is regarding Stanley Park Golf Club? The club feels that it's being deliberately undermined in its efforts to function and plan for its future. The club have serious concerns regarding the Council's actions or lack of action towards them. Could the Cabinet member advise Council tonight publicly why Stanley Park Golf Club are having so much difficulty in getting information and assistance from the Council? Can the Cabinet member state publicly state publicly that they will make sure that Stanley Park Golf Club are not ignored and that an effective communication takes place between the Council and themselves? And finally, can the Cabinet member inform Council publicly who UKAP Blackpool Holdings are? And what does the Council feel is the future of Blackpool, of Stanley Park Golf Club? Thank you.
Councillor Clapham.
Mine is just really a question about infrastructure in terms of electric cars and charging points. I note in the report that there was another 13 already in the planning. Knowing the experience that most people have had over the last week in terms of putting petrol and diesel in normal cars, if you imagine they became electric cars over the next few years, we're going to need an awful lot of electric charging points. Could you tell me how many we've got already in the town and how many we plan to have for the future? Bearing in mind we will have thousands of people coming into the town with electric cars who will need to be recharged to get back home. I've read reports of people testing new electric cars which are very efficient, they're good for the atmosphere, the green issues and so on, and then they get to a town, try and find somewhere to recharge, and it is not uncommon to be running around for an hour and a half to find one that's not being vandalised, etc. So forward planning, what are we going to put into the infrastructure, how many, where will there be, is something for you to think about. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Clapham. Any further general questions? Okay, going back to councillors to reply.
Get mine out of the way first,
Yeah.
Deputy Lady Mayor. Last first, Councillor Clapham, electric cars and charging points. Good question. I really don't. I don't know. I don't know exactly how many we've got, and I know we need more. I know that there's a paper going to the executive. I think it's next month about an integrated bus plan and a transport plan, and mention is made of electric charging points in that. So hopefully that will provide more information. But you're right. Given the chaos that's ensuing at garages, electric would seem to be the way forward for us all. In terms of my parts of the report, Councillor Rick Scott on page 28 talking about the CCTV project and the maintenance contract. The maintenance contract's out for procurement. We're very well aware, and the people concerned with the CCTV have emphasised times many to me. A lot of these CCTV cameras that come can't cope with the salt air. They corrode really quickly. So they are alive to that, and they will be featuring that in the procurement contract. As regards the maintenance contract, beyond the initial investment, there's an initial outlay of £100,000 a year being budgeted for maintenance and further development of CCTV, which is a massive improvement on what we've currently got. So hopefully the cameras will be a good quality and won't need all that anyway, but it is provided for. In terms of Lancashire Constabulary, will they contribute? We'll have money from anybody, Councillor Scott. We'll be trying to prize some out of the Police and Crime Commission, I suspect, and any fund that comes available for community safety, we're always in there looking to get some more money towards community safety projects, which include CCTV. Councillor Welsh talked about CCTV and the Friends groups and the unfortunate circumstances that have occurred at Highfield Road Park. The Friends groups were involved in the consultation, will continue to be involved in the consultation. I think Stanley Park is close to having the cameras put in there already, and the order of batting for the others will be confirmed later. It won't just be on the seafront. There will be residential areas that will be covered, and they'll be dealt with on a risk assessment basis. So it will be across the town. I will say that currently one of the difficulties we've got is that we've got dozens of cameras across the town, which ward councillors, both present and past, have funded quite rightly and in the right spirit, but they're not connected to the central system. They're standalone systems. Quite a few of them are obsolete. They're not connected to anything. So that will form part of the review and the risk assessment to see whether we upgrade them to include them in the new system, whether there's still a need for them on an ongoing basis. In terms of the catching the perpetrators, I agree. I mean, vandalism and antisocial behaviour in public parks is unbelievable. It's that they're actually destroying their own town and their own community. One of the benefits of the new CCTV system will be that perpetrators will be brought to book a lot quicker. Because one of the benefits is that currently the cameras that collect evidence, where the police are looking for evidence from the cameras and CCTV, we have to burn a disc or a number of discs that provide the visual evidence so the police can decide whether or not to charge somebody. The major benefit of the new cameras, because they're internet enabled, is that downloading will be instantaneous. So somebody can actually be charged. The evidence can be in the police station, can be viewed in the police station by the defence solicitors and the police, and a decision made to charge before they're even released from custody, if we've got them in custody, rather than having to bail them to potentially do more damage and then come back several weeks later when we burn the CCTV discs. So hopefully it'll reduce antisocial behaviour and crime across the town. Councillor Tony Williams, potholes, everybody's favourite subject. We're all ward councillors. We all get grief every week about potholes. Project Amber is basically trying to deal with the worst affected areas in the first instance, and we'll continue to do so. I'm glad you thought it was great. We actually got some positive comments from the public as well for roadworks, which was good. Why has it taken so long? Basically because we haven't got any money. If we had the money, we'd fix every pothole. Every ward councillor would tell constituents the same thing. We simply haven't got the money. So we're trying to come up with a cost-effective solution that's best for everybody. If we can extend the lives of these roads by 5 years, it's more cost-effective to do that than keep sending a group of workers out to fill a pothole that 3 weeks later is emptied because they've only just put a patch on. And it's not cost-effective. So hopefully we'll continue that, and hopefully we'll gather more funding to roll it right out across the town. Thank you, Lady Mayor.
Okay, I'll try and do my bit now, thank you. So just leading on from Councillor Clapham's question about electric vehicles, I just wanted to add that we are working on an electric vehicle strategy. So that will be going through all the appropriate processes, and I'm sure you'll get sight of that before too long. So moving on to trees and Councillor Walsh's concerns. I'm pleased to say that we've planted 4,500 trees and we have a target of 10,000 by 2030. We're going to review that target because, as you can see, we're well on track to smash that target. However, there is a concern that the trees that we're planting are being vandalised or stolen or whatever. I know that a whip costs £30, but some of your other financial questions, I haven't got that detail with me right now, but we'll follow up with that information. And we know that the trees that we think may have been stolen, that's been reported to the police, and there's ongoing investigations around that. Just for information, we're looking at planting a tiny forest, which, if you've not heard of that, you could have a Google of it, in the Mearside area. So we're proceeding with that, but also I think it's really important to engage with the local communities to try and prevent antisocial behaviour from taking place, so that the people have some ownership of the spaces that are in their area, and maybe we could link in with the new CCTV as well to protect the trees once they're planted. So with the tiny forest, we're engaging with the Lotus School and the youth centre in Mearside. Councillor Williams, you were talking about the golf course. Again, I'm not privy to all the details around the plans for the golf course, but as Cabinet Member for Climate Change, I'd like to assure you that as plans unfold, I'll be keeping a very close eye on that to make sure that the green space is improved. It's said that golf courses can be green concrete, which means, you know, they're not that environmentally friendly as a golf course. So I will be looking to ensure that anything that's replacing that golf course will benefit residents and also the environment. Councillor Galley, 15-minute neighbourhoods, I'm aware of that. There is a consultation, as you're aware, it closes on Monday, so I'm not quite sure what your question was in what you were asking and presenting around the 15-minute neighbourhoods, but perhaps you could complete that in your consultation, or if I've missed something, I'm sure somebody will let me know and your answer will be dealt with later. So apologies for that. Yes, Councillor Michelle Scott, about the cavity wall insulation, absolutely. I'm very familiar with a few friends and relatives that have had bad experiences of that. And I can assure you that the officer that's involved in bringing in new types of insulation to protect properties going forward is very keen to gatekeep and make sure that whatever is put into place is appropriate for our climate and our properties that we've got. So totally agree and understand where you're coming from with that. One other thing about, I've just seen on my notes about electric vehicles as well, there's apparently an app. I test drove one on Sunday, and you get an app and it tells you where the electric charging points are and whether they're in use. So I know there aren't many, they'll be a bit like hen's teeth, but at least there are systems starting now to be put in place, and it's evolving all the time. So thank you.
Let's try and answer these questions, mainly from Councillor Galley across the chamber there. Thank you very much. So I missed our meeting on Monday, you know. Yes, I couldn't quite understand where it's going with the energy and China and the EZ, but we've got a good team that work on the enterprise zone under Rob Green, and we are looking to build the spine to go through to release the pockets of land for the major developments on that site. So over the next years to come, there'll be a lot more development, a lot more resource on that site. So all I can say is speak to the department and see what we can do to encourage energy and businesses to be more self-sufficient. That's going to be the future. We need to sort of think about ourselves first and make sure we can sort of sustain our own environment as well, instead of bringing the energy and resource from overseas, you know. So any more information on that I'll bring to the chamber going forwards. That's okay for yourself. Town centre regeneration, thank you for that question there. there's a lot going on, as you can see. I did a list earlier on, all the different projects, you know, from the Community Renewal Fund, which we've got bids in for, the town deal, £39.5 million, you know. We've got the Levelling Up Fund, £20 million. The Future High Streets we didn't quite get, but we've got the Get and Building Fund, which is £8.6 million. Plus also on top of that, we had the Quality Corridors scheme that's just finished, where you've seen the vast improvements to the footways and some of the shops on Edward Street and Toppin Street, and I don't know about yourself, they look fantastic. All these projects so far, without any external match funding or other stuff, is £78 million. Been brought into town or going to be brought into town. This excludes the other big projects like the Central Car Park site. It's a lot of work and a good team under the directorship of Nick Gerrard, who oversees these projects, and the time and effort going into these, especially with the latest bids for the town deal, I've been to many meetings going for each one of these bids with the board, and they scrutinise into detail. We go back and we make it better before the bid is going to go to a central government. So when you need specialist support and need, we will bring it in as and when needed on any detailed specific areas. But I feel confident the team we've got can deliver all these projects going forward. So, and hopefully yourself, we're going to see over the next 5 years a transformation of the town centre, especially as you see, you go out here, you go to Tower Road, you've got the new hotel and the tram terminus, which come into effect as of next year, which is going to be another milestone we've achieved in the town. I'm going to try and answer the question. I'm not quite sure where Councillor Coleman on this question regarding the golf. No one's come to me regarding issues. My understanding was that the golf club itself was quite happy with what the service had been given by the operator. So if they got any specific issues they're having issues with, I'll personally take on board and investigate, and any questions, any problems, I'll try and resolve them for them, okay? But that's the first I've heard about it. No one's come to me before. So if they come to you, if you had known earlier, you could let me know and I would have gone and investigated it. Okay, but I will take it on board personally and find out what's going on. Okay. Thank you, Deputy Madam Mayor. Sorry. Debenham, sorry.
Yeah, Councillor Williams, you'll know what I'm going to say. We are confined to a non-disclosure agreement, but please believe me when I say this, that as soon as I can, I will. Okay. So I just want to add a couple of other points. Councillor Smith is entirely right in terms of delivering the major projects. That's why we work with the experts like Muse, who bring that expertise to it and also share the risk with us. And the other thing about electric cars, obviously they don't reduce the congestion around the town centre. We want to encourage people to use wonderful things like trams, as I saw on Saturday morning as well. To use public transport, modern joined up transport system, including the trams around the town centre. But yeah, I take the point, and I think, as the colleagues have said, into each new scheme, whether it's the car park at central development, specific, emphasis is given consideration around electric charging points. I think that was it, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Yep, I think that deals with the place portfolio, so we can move on to the combined 60, the Combined Fire Authority report.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. I'm very pleased to present the Fire Authority report, and just to highlight, I'm not going to go through the full report, it's there to read, just to highlight one or two things. There's been a change of power with the Lancashire Combined Fire Authority. It's now Conservative controlled with a massive majority of 1. So we're holding on to that fingernails. But it's in good hands, that's all I can say, not just from the members, all the members. It's not a political meeting. We all get involved in what the fire service is doing, the fire and rescue service, and it's a beginning of a year, so we're looking at resources. I'm the chair of resources on that, and I know from a meeting today, financially, we're in a good place. But that doesn't mean to say there aren't challenges. One of the biggest challenges could be that the Police and Crime Commissioner wants to take control of the fire authority as well as the police. Not so much that Andrew wants to take control, but it's been mooted before. That could make a big difference to the development, especially the new training centre, which we need to develop in Exton. We fought it off once before with the previous, well, not the previous incumbent, but the previous commissioner, and I think we'll do our best to fight it off again. But as usual, the fire service are running extremely efficiently. They're very diverse in the employment. They have an excellent record of employing people from all walks of life, and they're focused on doing so. The pension scheme is one of the best you've seen. There's some dispute over it, but it is one of the best pension schemes I've come across. Obviously, these people work in dangerous situations, and I think the pension scheme and the age they retire should reflect that. And I believe and understand, Lady Mayor, that it does. So I'm proud to present this meeting, this report to the meeting, and I'll leave it for any questions. Thank you.
Councillors Hugo and Jackson, do you want to add any comments to that? Councillor Jackson.
Yes, Deputy Lady Mayor. I'd just like to support what Councillor Williams has said about the police I've forgotten his title, but you know who I mean. We stood together as a full authority before, and we fought it and we won, and I'm hoping the same will happen again now that you're in control by the one majority, I know, but I'm hoping we will stick together and fight it again now. It's a Conservative person, we're trying to stop doing it.
Nothing to add really, just support what Councillor Williams has said. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we'll take questions or comments on page 31. Councillor Collett.
Mine's like any other business at the end. So.
Okay, I'll add you to that. Just bear with. I haven't got page 36. That's okay. There isn't one. Okay. I'll just put it on the sorry, Councillor. Okay, going back, page 32, page 33, page 34, 35. Okay, Councillor Collett.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. I didn't think anybody would beat me to. I've mentioned this once, but I think it was a bit later on in the year, but last year. And I know Councillor Williams shares some of my thoughts on fireworks and firework displays. I was just wondering if, a bit like how we were talking about the knife amnesty before, if the fire authority or we as an authority could do a similar thing where we can stop either or ask people to voluntarily not sell fireworks. Now, I don't want to be the party killer, but as people may remember, if you've ever had your house nearly blown up because your dad thinks it's a good idea to use fireworks in a bonfire and everybody runs for cover, you'll know the sheer dread people experience when these things go wrong. So I was just wondering if the fire authority were planning on doing anything like that, or if we as an authority could maybe do something like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Walsh and Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. It's more of an observation, really, and something I'd like to be taken forward to the Fire Authority in future meetings. And that's with the ever-growing Airbnb situation that Blackpool and across the borough faces. I think there's 71 plus Fleetwood, 300 in Blackpool, 500 in Fylde. I believe in order to trade as an Airbnb, if you go over 40 days, 140 days rather, it then turns into a registered business. If that's the case, the authority, when they're looking at accommodation providers, whether it's hotels, Airbnbs, and they do their annual checks, are these checks being put in place for Airbnbs? because there is a problem, like I say, 300 now. What's to stop them when there's less than 140, trading for 140 days, and not having an L2 system put in place, which many providers have to do? So I'd like that being brought forward at the next meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Yeah, my question is, and it's just an update really. I've mentioned it before about sprinklers being introduced into new build and old builds, you know, houses of multiple occupation, etc., etc. If you've got any news on that.
Any further questions? Councillor Mitchell.
Sadly, several days ago in my ward there was a fatal fire incident, and as mentioned by Councillor Walsh, there was a fire on Highfield Park. I'd just like to put on record my thanks to the firefighters who attended the incidents.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Collett, yeah, it's a great idea, but I don't think the fire authority are the people to drive such a campaign. I think it's a partnership. It has to be done with the local authority, and it has to be done with the fire service as well. They do a heck of a lot in reminding people about the dangers of fireworks, and they have their own firework display and bonfire on site on the 5th of November. But I totally agree with you. But it's going to be a difficult thing because some shops open up just to sell fireworks and then they disappear again. And they're not even from the town we live in. They're from all over the place. But I think we could both, as a partner, stretch the message a little further and endorse it more. And I'm happy to take that to the fire authority at the next meeting. Thank you. Councillor Walsh, Airbnb. There's 80,000 Airbnbs in the whole of the UK. That's a heck of a lot. And the criteria is that the fire service are not obliged, nor are they statutorily dutified to do inspections. These are private homes. But they do advise these private homes what fire steps they can take. But there's a warning to anybody considering this. If you are a mortgage, for instance, if your property is mortgaged and you're renting out a room or part of your house as an Airbnb, it could be against your mortgage provider's policies. It could invalidate your insurance, your house insurance. And it's the same if you were leasing a property. If you're renting the property yourself and you were renting out, subletting, again, you'd be compromising the landlord and his insurance policy. So without some government change in that, and I understand about the 140 days, there's nothing the fire brigade can do to insist on fire regulations within Airbnbs. But they do advise. They advise people who operate Airbnbs. But like yourself, Councillor Walsh, I'd like to see more regulations on these types of properties, and I'd like to see more control over the safety aspect of them. We don't know where they are. We don't know who they are. And I'm not sure how Airbnb works. I think you join the club, and then they, I think, promote for you. But that's the dangers. Anybody opening an Airbnb must inform their insurance company. They must inform their landlord if they're renting. And I would advise them also to contact the fire brigade, who'd be delighted to come round and give them a survey and advice. So I endorse that. Councillor Scott, sprinklers. You may remember we brought a motion to full council about sprinklers. I was at the time, I think, champion for community safety on the fire authority. And one of the things that obviously is a concern is new build, and where new build should always be and include a sprinkler system. It costs hundreds to do it on a new build, but to retrofit costs thousands. It's a very expensive process, but it's going to need a change of government, but that is coming. I think there is a white paper, and I think it will come. It will mean a lot A couple of things it means. Obviously, save lives. Simple as that. The fire can be controlled into one room, and the sprinkler will put it out in that room, and it doesn't affect the rest of the house. So there's no displacement. There's no damage of great damage. But the other thing it says, of course, is that you can build more houses. Because the houses, if they've got sprinklers, can be closer together. They don't have to have the statutory amount of space between each one. Not that that's good if you're living in a detached house and you can touch the house next door, but it's good if we develop a new public housing. So, yes, I think it will come, definitely.
And I think just to recognise Councillor Mitchell about the fatal fire in your ward, to pass on condolences and our sympathies with the family. Very sorry to hear that. So that brings us to the end of our executive report. So if we can take a comfort break for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So returning at 20 past, councillors. Thank you. turning to the Code of Governance, pages 37 to 48. Councillor Galley, I believe you moved the motion.
Brilliant. Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. Yeah, it gives me great pleasure to move the recommendation. There are two recommendations there, 2.1 and 2.2. This really identifies the Blackpool Code of Governance, what we do and how we do it. And there are 16 strands to that, covering everything from code of conduct to partnership working, and they can be seen on pages 46 and 47. The two recommendations are, as I say, are on page 37. So we've been asked to adopt the attached code of governance, and 2.2 is update the Blackpool governance framework section at the end of the code, and that the audit committee is authorised to do that, but any changes will be brought back to full council. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Galley. And seconded?
Yes, happy to second. Thank you, Lady Mayor, Deputy Lady Mayor.
Thank you. Do you have anything further to say on it? Any speakers on the motion? No? No? Okay. So, right to reply, Councillor Galley. Nothing to reply to. Reply to nothing. So, can we vote on the motion? Let's see a show of hands, please. Carried. Moving on to item 8, the Audit Committee Annual Report on pages 49 to 52. Sorry, I'll just get to my pages. Councillor Galley, again to present.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. I've been so excited to do this for so long. It felt like a long time since we did this. I've got some notes. We've got a really good report here, actually, that summarises the work that the Audit Committee has done at probably one of the most challenging times that we've all lived through. And because of that, the Audit Committee had to reinvent itself, as we all did, and all of our various committees and so forth did during that time. And I'm really proud of some of the things that we did, because in that theme, Lady Deputy Mayor, and as a member of that committee as well, you'll know this journey that we undertook, is that we reinvented ourselves to crucially support the work of the council at this time that it needed us most. At a time of great change, it needed to make sure that its processes were robust, that we could provide assurance, and we could manage the risks. And the two core risks that everybody was worried about, that we were seeing other councils starting to fall on, were income generation and their council-owned businesses. And that proved quite a huge piece of work in the way we addressed those risks. And we got to a point, I think it was in November's meeting, it seems a long time ago now, but the whole theme of this one meeting was to ask ourselves one question, which was, as a council, are we a sustainable organisation? And this was at a time when we didn't really know the answer. People were asking that question. It was crucial that we could assure the people of the town, we could assure the officers, we could assure the elected members. And through the tests that we set in the risk register, the assurance process, the annual governance statement, all the things that are listed there, the work of the external auditors, we were able to answer that question. And I'm delighted to say, I was delighted to get to that point and that answer in November, was that yes, we are a sustainable organisation. And here, I'm really proud tonight to stand here and say, because of the tests that we set, that because of the work of the Audit Committee, we are a sustainable organisation. So it gives me great pleasure to thank everybody, from Elaine, our clerk, Tracy, our head of risk, Mark, from the governance side, our excellent vice chair, all the members, our independent members that have joined us, and what does the future look like? We've reinvented ourselves as a committee that proactively supports the council in the way it delivers its services. And I've listed a number of future work programme targets for the Audit Committee. And also part of that is to create a really good legacy for everybody. And so, which is why we no longer do training. We have the Audit Academy, which takes the method of training to another level. It will mean that every member, whoever joins the Audit Committee, will be start a journey that means they start to think like an auditor by the time they've completed that journey after 12, 18 months. And so we're making really good progress, but it's not being done by me. It's not being done by 2 people, 3 people. It's being done by many people. And I'm really, really proud to present the report. And I just want to say a huge thank you for everybody who's contributed to some really good meetings that I feel have answered one very important question. And the answer is yes, we are a sustainable organisation.
Thank you, Councillor Galley. Questions on page 49? I'm sorry, to second.
No, that's right.
Page 49, Councillor Williams. Sorry. Yeah, okay. We'll catch you on page 52. Yeah. Questions on page 49, going back. Page 50. Page 51. Over to you, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Deputy Lady Mayor. Sorry. It was just to acknowledge the important work and thank you for the report, Councillor Galley. That the significant contributions that the Audit Committee has made. Through its work over the last year, which has focused on the impact of the pandemic upon council services and the response of the council, and that will assist me and the council in managing such situations going forward, and will also importantly inform future business and service continuity to ensure that the council remains resilient and continues to deliver if those similar circumstances arise again. And also, I think importantly, we should mention by reviewing the risk management framework will strengthen those governance processes and help to mitigate against risk, which is vital at a time when we know that many councils are facing difficult and uncertain times. So it was to thank you and other members of the Audit Committee for their hard work. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Yes, Councillor Galley, I just want to say not many people can get passionate about an audit committee, So I got to sort of say, well done to you, taking us on board and put all your heart into a committee. Probably I like a good spreadsheet, but not many people do, So, but your passion towards this committee has been, over the years, been really good. You've done a lot of work, you worked hard to make it your own, really, and you've transformed it into a committee that's going to benefit the whole town as well as the council. It's going to be a lot of challenge going forward. Over the last year and this year, we've given out £144 million of grants to support businesses on business rate relief and grants of businesses. That's going to be part of the audit to make sure we can sustain and make sure this is correct, as well. So I was going to say thank you for your commitment to the audit committee. Thank you.
Any further comments, Councillor Galley?
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Just to thank the acknowledgements from the leader and Councillor Smith. When we started this journey, I was aware that audit has this awful reputation being a very dry subject. I remember saying to Councillor Benson, we're going to make this a very sexy area of the council. And I know that's not often words you hear next to audit. But I think at a time of crisis, your processes and so on are really important. But one of the things that we always set out, and I always realised about what good risk management can do, is it allows our officers, it allows our elected members to dare to be different. And that was crucial before COVID. It's even more important now, during and hopefully after. So we're here to be everyone's best friend and support them in that journey. So thank you for your acknowledgements. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to the scrutiny annual report on pages 53 to 64, Councillor Maxine Caller.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Well, it gives me great pleasure to present this report to the full council. I would like to thank all the members of the scrutiny committees and of the leadership board, and also all the officers. Scrutiny was once frowned upon. It was a Cinderella. Nobody wanted to go on a scrutiny committee. They felt that the leader had dumped them there because they didn't really know what else to do with them. But I think since this was formed, we've proved just how vital it is and how interesting and, more importantly, how important it is to the council to look at problems, scrutinise them, and hopefully make Blackpool a better place for all our residents. It is moving forward. It's still a very young committee, but I have great pleasure in presenting this report. There's just one thing that bothers me slightly, Lady Deputy Mayor, that on page 61 on the Children and Young People's report, we're still unable to get 2 co-opted parent governors. And this is so important. You know, children education is vital. And once they've had a bad education, you can't go back. It can be lost forever. And I am surprised that, you know, perhaps it's the council's fault. We haven't encouraged parents to come forward. But I think it's something that we have got to look at, because I'm sure there are many parents out there who would love to go on this panel and find it very interesting, and hopefully they could contribute an awful lot. So I would once again like to thank everybody for all their hard work. And when you look at this report, to say that we've had a pandemic and what we've gone through as a council, it's unbelievable that so much work has been achieved in such a short time. And I would just once again like to thank everybody for the cooperation and their enthusiasm and all their ideas. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Critical friend, and they hold to account the portfolio holders and the officers very well indeed. So I agree with you there. And we would also put out an appeal to our parent governors to consider to offer themselves, volunteer as one of the co-opted parent governors to the Scrutiny Leadership Board. So thank you for making that point, Councillor Callow. If we move on, any questions or comments? So if we take it a page at a time, no, any just general questions or comments? Councillor Michelle Scott.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. I would just like to acknowledge the value of having this system in place for the council, because I think it's hugely beneficial for all the scrutiny committees to have the leadership system in place. Councillor Maxine Callow does a wonderful job as the chair of that leadership board, and so many of the issues that are dealt with are cross-cutting. They don't sit within one individual scrutiny area. So to have the opportunity to all come together to look at those cross-cutting issues is really of value, and I commend the council for the action it took in putting this board together. Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Any further? Councillor Williams? Both Councillor Williams. If we go with the...
So, thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. In the same way, in paying credit to the audit report, I wanted to just make some further comments upon the report, and thanks to all of the scrutiny committees and to yourself, Councillor Callow. The Scrutiny Leadership Board has started its new role in reviewing financial performance, which will assist the council in its longer-term financial planning in an effort to improve financial resilience, which is obviously incredibly important, particularly at this time. And I mean, all of the scrutinies have undertaken some amazing work, which, from adult social care and health, the drug-related death, Meals on Wheels, children and young people, still focusing on social care improvement, youth justice, special educational needs, conducted reviews on education, inclusion, school response to pandemic, better start, tourism, economy and communities, kept an overview of tourism recovery, response to the pandemic, town centre regeneration, it goes on. And I think all scrutiny committees are also now much more involved in inputting into the council policies, and therefore play a key role in strategy development for the council. And I think that the committees are now working more closely together, and that cross-working aids not only the council, the town, our people, and I think it's of great credit that to yourself in your role, and to the chairs and members of the Scrutiny Committee, and it was also to reaffirm the significance and importance of scrutiny to the Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to endorse and echo what my colleagues have said about scrutiny and audit, really. Two very powerful, important actions that this council can carry out to police yourself is one of the best things you can do. I want to just refer to the Tourism, Economy and Community Scrutiny Committee. I think on my paper, it's page 62, having an impact on public rights of way. Now, I understand that committee, somebody from the public came and gave a talk relating to the concerns raised in full report was requested of rights of way in Blackpool. I'd like to remind the portfolio holder and members that on the east side of the golf course, there are several public rights of way, which may not be seen on the Ordnance Survey maps, but they are there and they are protected. And if the portfolio holder wants a list and a map, I've got it.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Should we take questions page by page? Page 59. Any questions? Page 60. Sorry. Page 60. Page 61. Page 62. Page 63. Page 64. Okay. So that concludes the scrutiny annual report. Councillor Mrs. Callow.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank everybody for their comments. Thank you very much. And Councillor Williams, yes, somebody did come to speak about public rights of way, and I think the council now have a different view on them and realise just how important they are. They had been neglected over the years, but hopefully, since that speaker and the progress that has been made, it may not be as quick as we'd like, but we are aware of the facts, and hopefully, in a year's time, we will be in a better position, you know, to understand our rights of way and to continue to improve them, not just as a council, but they give great pleasure to people who are out walking. So let's all get behind that. And I would like to thank the person who brought this up in the first place, a member of the public who spoke very well on this issue. And thank you once again for all the remarks about the committee and the scrutiny members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Callow. If we can move on now to item 10, which is the Standards Committee referral on pages 65 to 68. Councillor Ivan Taylor to move the motion.
Thank you. Yes, it's my sad duty to have to report on behalf of the Standard Board a breach of the Code of Conduct with regard to a member failing to declare a gift in the appropriate register. That was, of course, Councillor Blackburn. It's particularly sad when the committee considered this, given obviously all the long service and that Councillor Blackburn has given to this council to find himself in that particular position. Nevertheless, the report that we had, the independent report, confirmed that that was the case, and so the committee are resolved to censure the member, and that has been reported to this council, and we use the opportunity at the same time to remind everyone of their duties under this legislation, because it's something that people might forget about or don't miss whatever, but that should not be the case, and it's something that we will watch very, very carefully. Councillor Blackburn himself accepted the report and has apologised for failing to register this. So we're simply reporting that there is a censure coming before the council, and that we ask members to be very vigilant in making sure that they don't get themselves into a similar position. So I will move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. And a councillor to second?
Formally second that, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. Any other councillors to speak on this matter? Okay. Council to vote on the motion, please. All those in favour? Carried. And that. Moving on to statutory appointments on pages 69 to 72.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. It is obviously it's been due to the timetabling of council, so it's a belated confirmation of the statutory appointment of Vicky Dent to DCS, and to also in relation to Mark Golden, position of Deputy Chief Finance Officer. Happy to move the recommendation.
And a councillor to second? Yes, happy to second. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Any other councillors to speak on the matter? Councillor to vote on the motion. Agreed? All those in favour? That looks unanimous. Thankfully. So moving on to item 12, the review of political balance and appointment of committees, pages 73 to 84. And that is Councillor Williams to move the motion, please.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Yes, happy to move the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. And a councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Any other councillors to speak? Councillor Coleman.
I'm obliged, Lady Deputy Mayor. I refer to my comments from the previous council meeting when I questioned the motives behind the removal of Councillor Martin Mitchell from his chairmanship, simply because he had the decency to support a calling of the decision to build on half of Stanley Park Golf Course. Lady Deputy Mayor, I now read that 2 Labour councillors have become chairman of 2 separate committees each, while some Labour councillors have again been shunned. It is quite sad that the leader doesn't feel that she has enough members of sufficient quality and acumen to be chairs of committees and needs to give 2 members 2 chairmanships each. It appears to me, and it could appear to the public, that chairmanships are being offered as a means of political patronage. I worry that a number of the Labour Party group fear voicing any opinions that may dissent from the leadership because they're afraid of the precedent set with Councillor Martin Mitchell. Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor. Just to follow on from that, I concur with my colleague, Harry Coleman. But people may not know that if you are chair of 2 committees, you get 2 allowances. That seems a little unfair as well. So I'd just like to add that because the public won't know that either. Thank you.
Any further comments, councillors? Then Councillor Taylor. Okay, you didn't reserve your right to speak, Councillor Taylor. I'm so sorry. Councillor Collett.
I'm not sure what Councillor Taylor was going to say, but I might take a guess. You might give me a look in a minute, actually. And Councillor Williams doesn't need any of us in this room to defend her or her leadership, but I thought I might, and I think every Labour councillor person in this room would go against what Councillor Coleman has just said. I think we've got a great leader who makes great decisions. Sometimes they're hard, sometimes they're tough. And like I said, she doesn't need any of us to stand and say it, but I thought I would just lend a hand. I think she does a very good job, a very hard job, and I think she should be congratulated. Thank you, Lady Mayor.
And Councillor Williams, you have the right to reply.
Thank you. Councillor Coleman, you know that you can read my mind, and you state it as a fact, and I'm not going to talk about councillors who are not here, and I won't do them the disservice by discussing those kind of matters. But yeah, I'm absolutely terrified. They're absolutely scared to death of me, and yeah, so absolute and utter nonsense. It really is. Thank you.
Councillor Coleman, I'm sorry if you didn't hear that. One against, we'll make that clear.
Okay, I'm obliged. Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Item 12. 13, I'm sorry. Like I said, 13. Unlucky for some. Report of the Independent Remuneration Panel. Councillor Williams to move the motion.
Yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendations, Madam Lady. All right, yes, thank you.
96. And Councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Any other councillors to speak? Councillor Coleman.
I'm sorry to prolong the meeting, Lady Deputy Mayor, if you just let me carry on. Regarding the Appeals Committee, it would appear that over the last year and a half or so, we have 9 meetings cancelled. There have been 4 meetings since the 5th of November 2019. In fact, there was a whole year where I believe there wasn't one Appeals Committee meeting. Yet the chairman of that committee, by the look of it, receives over £8,000 in payments. The deputy chairman, £4,000 in payments. So that's 4 meetings in 22 months. Now, I'm aware the chairmanship has changed as well now, notwithstanding that. So for each meeting, as chair, the chairman received, and excuse my mathematics, approximately £22.66 per minute, which equates to something like £1,359 per hour. Obviously, the vice chairman is half that amount, so it would be £679 per hour. This is just one example of a committee which may be the most obscene example, but it's worth telling. I'm aware that, obviously, the last 18 months has been anything but normal. And I don't know whether the chairman and vice chairman of the committees took the money or whether they renounced it. Perhaps they'll advise us this evening. But I cannot support an increase in payments when such things as that is going on, Lady Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Any other points? Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Williams, you have the right to reply.
Thank you. As I understand it, I think, to my knowledge, there was only one, I'm looking for Councillor Hunter, there's only one appeals committee that was cancelled, and they've continued as normal. And obviously, this report is based on recommendations from independent committees, and I believe that, if I recall correctly, Councillor Coleman was chair of the appeals and clearly didn't raise those concerns when he was receiving that allowance. Thank you.
Just point of order, Lady Deputy Mayor. We were having regular meetings at the time I was chair of the Appeals Committee. Thank you, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Point of order.
Councillor Coleman, it's not a point of order either.
A point of information, if I may, then, Lady Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Councillor Hunt? Oh, right, Councillor Hunter, we finished. I'm so sorry. So we'll move to a vote. Councillors, raise your hand to... sorry. Those in favour, raise your hand, please. I will get this. Carried. Okay. One. Just one against. Councillor
Yeah, one
Coleman.
against, please. Thank you.
And one abstained. Thank you, Councillor. So, carried. Thank you. So sorry, I'll repeat that. It's carried, one abstained, one against. Moving on to item 14, pages 97 to 100, the Blackpool Medal. Councillor Williams to move the motion.
Thank you. And then I will hand over to the other Councillor Williams. The other Councillor Williams had contacted me shortly after the death of Brian London, very eloquently put the contributions that Brian London had made to Blackpool and what we could do. And this was came about as a suggestion following discussions, and the Labour group support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Yes, of course, I support this and I suggested it. I think Brian London has been greatly overlooked in the past in Blackpool for his services to sport, and as an entrepreneur he's always been a character. He comes from West Hartlepool originally, the whole family did. He's never said a bad word about Blackpool, never. In all his interviews he mentioned Blackpool, he talked about Blackpool, he supported Blackpool, and he promoted it. So I'm delighted to second the motion on Brian. I would still like to see a plaque somewhere, and I'm going to be talking to the heritage people and see if we can get something outside his house, whether or not it's still his house or whatever, maybe a blue plaque. So happy to second the motion, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. So council to vote on the motion. Sorry, any other speakers? Councillor Coleman, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I stand up to be positive, Lady Deputy Mayor. Thank you. On occasions I met with Mr London, and he was what an excellent ambassador. Of course, he was in bad health at the last part of his life, but it was always a pleasure to be in his company and to see the effect his appearance at various events had on the people that was in his company. So thank you very much, Lady Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Any other councillors to speak? Okay. Right to reply, Councillor Williams? No? Okay. We move to the vote. All in favour, raise your hand. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. And that, my friends, councillors, concludes the business of the meeting. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you to everyone who's watching, streaming online, and good night.
Can we just add your